In the early 15th century, when most of the world had never seen a globe, when Columbus had yet to dream of the Atlantic, a fleet of ships unmatched in size, power, and ambition carved a path across the Indian Ocean. These were the Ming treasure voyages, 7 expeditions led by one man, Admiral Zheng He. The Rise of the Dragon. The voyages began under the rule of the Yongle Emperor, a powerful and visionary ruler of the Ming dynasty. Determined to assert China's supremacy, he turned to a trusted admiral of the court, Zheng He. Born a Muslim in Yunnan and captured by Ming forces as a child, Zheng He rose to become a eunuch commander and one of the emperor's most loyal servants. He was intelligent, multilingual, and above all, trusted. In 1405, the emperor ordered an unprecedented expedition to sail beyond China's borders, to collect tribute, establish diplomatic ties, and bring back the marvels of the known world. The Armada of the Ages. What followed was one of the most ambitious maritime undertakings in history. At its peak, Zheng He's fleet boasted over 300 ships, among them colossal treasure ships, some as long as 400 feet, 5 times larger than the caravels that would later carry Portuguese explorers around Africa. Each fleet carried tens of thousands of men, sailors, soldiers, diplomats, interpreters, artisans, and physicians. Ships carried fresh water, horses, trade goods, weapons, and even imperial gifts. The scale was staggering, not merely a voyage, but a floating city moving across oceans. The voyages begin. The first voyage, 1405 to 1407, set sail from Liujiagang, stopping in Champa, Vietnam, Java, Sumatra, and Malacca, before crossing the Indian Ocean to Calicut on the southwestern coast of India. The return trip was anything but peaceful. In the Strait of Malacca, Zheng He confronted the pirate Chen Zuyi, who had long terrorized merchants. The admiral's fleet crushed the pirate forces, securing the sea lanes for future trade. Zheng He was not just a diplomat, he was a commander, a warrior of the seas. Diplomacy and dominance. In the second 1407 to 1409 and third 1409 to 1411 voyages, Zheng He returned to Southeast Asia and India, extending China's reach into Ceylon, Sri Lanka. There, diplomacy met resistance. Zheng He erected a trilingual stele in Chinese, Persian, and Tamil, symbolizing harmony. But when King Alakeshvara of Ceylon defied the fleet, Zheng He captured him and brought him back to Nanjing. He was released unharmed, a display of both might and mercy. Meanwhile, the tribute system flourished. Rulers across Asia and Africa sent envoys bearing rare goods, spices, gems, sandalwood, and live animals including lions, zebras, and most famously, a giraffe, which the Chinese took as a symbol of peace and cosmic harmony. Beyond the horizon. With each journey, Zheng He ventured farther. The fourth voyage, 1413 to 1415, pushed into the Persian Gulf, with stops in Hormuz and the Maldives, returning with envoys from 19 kingdoms. The fifth, 1417 to 1419, and sixth, 1421 to 1422, voyages went deeper into East Africa, reaching Mogadishu, Mombasa, Malindi, and possibly even Mozambique. There, the Chinese exchanged porcelain and silk for African ivory and ambergris. Local rulers welcomed the fleet, entering into the Ming tributary system, a vast diplomatic network where China sat at the center of a trading world stretching from Japan to the Red Sea. Zheng He's treasure voyages were more than expeditions. They were a bold projection of power, prestige, and peace. China ruled the seas not through conquest, but through presence, through awe. But even as the fleets continued their course, a storm was gathering, not at sea, but in the halls of power in Beijing. The final voyage. By the early 1430s, Zheng He was no longer the tireless young admiral who had once conquered pirates and crossed oceans. He was aging, and so was the support for his voyages. A new emperor had risen, Zheng He, more cautious than his predecessors. Many at court questioned the usefulness of the treasure fleet. Critics whispered, "Why spend fortunes on faraway lands when the threats lie at home?" But in 1430, Zheng He received one final command, one last voyage, to reaffirm China's supremacy abroad and to remind the world that the Ming still ruled the waves. In 1431, he departed on the seventh voyage. It would last over 3 years, visiting more than 20 ports, including Malacca, Java, Ceylon, Calicut, Hormuz, Aden, and possibly Mecca. Some records suggest that Zheng He died during the voyage, either in Calicut or on the return journey. If so, he was buried at sea, his body given to the ocean he had commanded for decades. Others claim he returned to China and died shortly thereafter. The exact place of his death remains uncertain, but his legacy was already immortal. The sea wall closes. Zheng He's voyages did not end because they failed. They ended because the empire turned inward. The new officials of the Ming court saw foreign contact as a threat. They feared foreign ideas, foreign alliances, foreign wars. To preserve the Confucian order, they banned further maritime expeditions. By 1477, all records of the voyages were ordered destroyed. The great ships rotted at anchor or were dismantled. The shipyards that once built titanic treasure ships fell silent. China, once the greatest naval power on Earth, had abandoned the sea. What was left behind? For centuries, Zheng He was a forgotten name in the West. His voyages were dismissed as myths or ignored entirely. But archaeology and scholarship tell a different story. Fragments of Chinese porcelain have been found in Kenya and Tanzania. Ancient texts in India, Arabia, and East Africa speak of the mighty Chinese ships. And in Gala, Sri Lanka, the trilingual stele carved by Zheng He still stands, one of the last surviving records of his passage. Even as maps of Europe lit up with voyages of Columbus, da Gama, and Magellan, the ghost of Zheng He lingered. Proof that before the age of European empires, there had been another path across the seas. The legacy of a lost empire. Today, China has once again turned to the sea. Zheng He's image is everywhere, in textbooks, monuments, and naval discourse. His story has become a symbol of China's historic global influence and its modern ambitions. But beyond politics or pride, Zheng He's voyages remind us of what was once possible, a world connected not by conquest, but by exploration and exchange. In an age of sails and stars, long before the world was mapped or conquered, one man led a fleet across half the earth, not to claim land, but to share it. Zheng He, admiral, diplomat, visionary. His legacy lies not only in the wake of his ships, but in the possibilities they left behind. Between 1405 and 1433, Zheng He's fleets traveled over 50,000 kilometers across the Indian Ocean, visiting more than 30 modern nations. No Chinese fleet would rival this scale again for over 500 years.